Imagine finding a treasure map over 2,000 years old, but it's written on copper, in a language no one can fully understand, and points to billions in lost gold that no one has ever found. What if the real mystery isn't where the treasure is, but why it was hidden at all? In 1952, deep in the caves near the Dead Sea, archaeologists uncovered something unlike anything ever seen before. Not a parchment, not a papyrus, but a scroll hammered into pure copper. Its words were engraved, not written. Its message, a list of secret hiding places filled with gold, silver, and sacred relics worth billions. This was not myth, this was real. But here's the mystery: no one has ever found the treasure it describes. For over 70 years, scholars, historians, and treasure hunters have searched the deserts of Israel, following the cryptic clues, and found nothing. The desert holds secrets older than empires, and in 1952, one of those secrets came to light in the arid cliffs overlooking the Dead Sea. It began not with a grand expedition, but with quiet persistence. Archaeologists, still exploring the same region where the Dead Sea Scrolls had been discovered just a few years earlier, ventured into what would be known as Cave 3 at Qumran. The air was still, the light dim, and the silence heavy with time. Inside, scattered among fragments of ancient pottery and decayed parchment, they found something that immediately defied expectation. A scroll, but unlike any scroll ever found before. It wasn't made of leather, nor papyrus, nor the familiar parchment used by the scribes of antiquity. It was something far stranger, something that shimmered beneath centuries of corrosion. A scroll made entirely of copper. At first glance, it seemed impossible. Copper, stiff and unyielding, is not a material for writing delicate words or sacred scriptures. Yet here it was, rolled tightly and green with oxidation, almost welded shut by time itself. The team could barely unroll it without breaking it apart, and the tension in that cave was palpable. They were holding something the ancient world had created to last forever. When the archaeologists realized the scroll could not be safely opened, they made a bold decision. They sent it to Manchester, England, where experts used fine saws to carefully cut the scroll into sections, peeling apart the layers one by one. As the copper sheets separated, faint engravings began to emerge under the light, letters inscribed with careful precision, still visible after 2,000 years. Every cut revealed new lines, and with each line came mounting curiosity. What message was so important that it had to be etched into metal? Unlike the other Dead Sea Scrolls, filled with biblical writings, community rules, and religious poetry, this one had a completely different tone. There were no hymns, no prayers, no prophecies. Instead, it was direct, practical, and almost shockingly specific. It mentioned numbers, places, directions. It spoke of chests of gold, bars of silver, and vessels of temple treasures buried in secret locations. Each entry described where the treasure lay, using distances, measurements, and cryptic landmarks. It was as if someone had written down the world's oldest treasure map. The scholars who first read the translation couldn't believe what they were seeing. The copper scroll described 64 hiding places, scattered across Judea, under ancient ruins, near rivers and caves, even beneath sacred sites. Together, the treasures listed were beyond imagination, tons of gold and silver, ritual objects from Jerusalem's temple, and sacred artifacts of immense religious importance. If the scroll was telling the truth, it wasn't just a historical curiosity. It was a guide to one of the greatest hoards in human history. But there was something more haunting about the discovery. No other Dead Sea Scroll was like this. All others had been written on organic material, fragile and fleeting, carrying moral and religious ideas meant for spiritual reflection. The copper scroll stood apart, not spiritual, not symbolic, but practical and physical. Its very existence seemed to whisper that the story it told was not allegory, but fact. Someone long ago had wanted these instructions to survive, to outlive wars, empires, and time itself. Who were they? The leading theory pointed to the Essenes, the mysterious sect believed to have lived at Qumran. They were known for their discipline, their devotion, and their withdrawal from the corruption of Jerusalem's priesthood. Some scholars believe they were the guardians of sacred texts, and perhaps even sacred treasures from the Second Temple. When Rome's legions marched through Judea, burning and destroying everything in their path, the Essenes may have hidden what they held most dear. The copper scroll, in that case, could have been their final act of preservation, a coded record meant for the faithful to recover when the time was right. Others argued that it couldn't have come from the Essenes at all. The tone was too bureaucratic, too detailed, too focused on material wealth. It sounded more like something from the temple priests themselves, an official inventory of treasures hidden away during the chaos of war. The scroll's Hebrew was also different, more formal, more structured than the community writings of Qumran. Perhaps it had been brought there later, a refugee artifact, carried by desperate hands trying to protect the wealth of Jerusalem from Roman seizure. The mystery deepened further when researchers noticed the enormous sums mentioned, quantities of gold and silver that would have required immense resources, far beyond the reach of any small sect. Could this really have been temple treasure hidden before the Romans stormed the city in 70 CE? Or was it an even older hoard, perhaps from the first temple, concealed centuries earlier when Babylon invaded Jerusalem? Every new possibility made the scroll even more enigmatic. And yet, despite its promises of unimaginable wealth, the copper scroll did not read like a legend. It read like an accountant's record. There were no flourishes, no myths, only terse, measured instructions. In the cistern which is in the courtyard of the peristyle, 40 talents of silver. In the cave that is next to the spring of the old valley, 62 bars of gold. Line after line, precise and methodical. Whoever had written it wasn't trying to tell a story. They were recording a reality. When the first researchers presented their findings, the world's imagination ignited. Newspapers called it the real-life treasure map of the Bible. Adventurers, treasure hunters, and scholars all felt the same pull if this list was genuine. Then somewhere beneath the sands of Israel lay a fortune so vast it could rewrite history. Excavations began almost immediately, but the desert keeps its secrets well. Despite decades of searching, no one has ever found even a trace of the treasure described. Still, that first moment of discovery in Cave 3 remains one of the most astonishing in archaeological history. A scroll that should not have existed, written on a material meant to defy time, carrying a message that challenges both faith and reason. The copper scroll didn't just add another chapter to the story of the Dead Sea Scrolls, it changed the tone entirely. It whispered of hidden wealth, vanished knowledge, and the possibility that beneath centuries of dust, something far greater might still be waiting to be uncovered. The copper scroll stands apart from every other discovery ever unearthed in the caves of Qumran. It is not only its content that bewilders scholars, it is the material itself. Why, in a time when parchment, leather, and papyrus were the standard mediums of writing, would someone choose to engrave an entire scroll onto sheets of copper? The decision seems deliberate, calculated, and strangely symbolic. Copper is hard, resistant, and enduring. It does not crumble with time like parchment, nor does it burn easily like paper. To inscribe words into metal is to demand permanence, to send a message meant to last for millennia. When the archaeologists first laid eyes on the corroded metal sheets, they knew they had stumbled upon something extraordinary. The other Dead Sea Scrolls were fragile, their ancient ink fading under the faintest touch. But this one had survived the ages. It was as if someone had known the importance of what they were recording, had wanted to preserve it not just for years or decades, but for eternity. The craftsmanship itself was remarkable. Each letter was hammered into the copper with precision, not written with ink, but carved with intention. Every stroke was permanent, irreversible. There was no room for mistakes, no edits, no rewriting. Whoever made this scroll did so knowing that once a word was struck into metal, it would remain forever. The choice of copper tells us something vital about the mindset of the people behind it. They were not merely documenting, they were safeguarding. Copper is an expensive and difficult material to work with. It requires heat, tools, and skill. Unlike parchment that could be easily produced and written upon by scribes, copper demanded craftsmanship and resources. This was not a casual record. It was a declaration of importance. The effort to inscribe such a long and detailed text on metal suggests that what it contained was of immense value, so valuable that it had to outlive its creators. Scholars have long debated whether the Copper Scroll was meant as a practical record or a symbolic text. If it was practical, it could have been an official document, perhaps created by temple priests or officials who were hiding sacred treasures during times of war. In that case, the use of copper was simply functional, a way to ensure the instructions would survive even if the city fell. The libraries burned and the people scattered. The treasures could then be reclaimed generations later by those who held the knowledge to interpret the text. But if it was symbolic, the copper itself becomes a message, one of endurance and divine preservation. In ancient cultures, metals were not just materials. They were symbols of the eternal. Copper, in particular, was associated with Venus, beauty, and immortality. It was used in religious vessels, temple ornaments, and sacred tools. The fact that the scroll was made from this very metal could suggest that the record it contained was not just a list of hidden gold and silver, but a spiritual metaphor for divine wealth, the eternal riches of faith, wisdom, or sacred knowledge preserved in a form that could never decay. Yet the Copper Scroll doesn't read like a poem or allegory. Its language is cold, direct, almost bureaucratic. It reads like an inventory, a catalog, a guide, and so historians continue to lean toward a practical purpose. Still, even in that practicality, the choice of copper remains deeply mysterious. Why not stone tablets? Why not carve the information onto a wall or monument as the ancients often did? The answer may lie in secrecy. Stone carvings are public, visible, meant to be seen. But copper scrolls can be rolled, hidden, sealed away in caves. Whoever made it wanted it to survive, but not to be easily found. It was endurance paired with secrecy, survival cloaked in silence. The physical form of the scroll also adds another layer of intrigue. The copper sheets were thin, beaten flat, and joined together to form a roll nearly 8 feet long. Over centuries, the metal corroded and fused, making it impossible to unroll without destroying it. The process of cutting it open, using fine saws in Manchester, revealed just how fragile even metal could become under the weight of time. But the text itself endured, each letter still readable beneath the green patina. The very act of preserving and decoding the scroll was like resurrecting a voice from a forgotten age. What kind of person would undertake such a task in antiquity? To inscribe so many words by hand into copper would have required patience and immense precision. It wasn't a job for a casual scribe. It must have been done by someone skilled in metalwork, perhaps a temple artisan or a craftsman working under priestly direction. The precision of the letters suggests not haste, but careful planning. Every measurement, every curve, every mark was deliberate. It's almost as if the maker knew that centuries later, someone would read these very words and try to unravel their meaning. And yet there's a quiet irony hidden in the copper itself. It was chosen for permanence, yet that very permanence made the scroll nearly impossible to read. It had to be cut apart, physically destroyed, to reveal its message. The choice that preserved it for 2,000 years also concealed it. Perhaps that was part of the design, a message intended only for those willing to labor to uncover it. A puzzle of metal, crafted by hands that knew the fragility of memory and the power of endurance. When you think about it, the Copper Scroll becomes more than just an archaeological artifact. It becomes a statement, a testament to the human desire to outlast time. In a world where empires fall, cities burn, and languages vanish, someone chose to write on copper. They believed their words, their instructions, their truth deserved immortality. The other Dead Sea Scrolls were messages to their own people, to their own generation. But this one was a message to us. The material itself becomes part of the riddle. It speaks without words, reminding us that the ancients knew the fragility of history. They knew how easily knowledge could disappear, how quickly the desert could swallow civilizations whole. The Copper Scroll, by its very existence, defies that fate. It is the voice of a world that refused to be forgotten, etched into metal so that even when kingdoms turned to dust, its secret would endure. When scholars finally managed to separate and read the corroded sheets of the Copper Scroll, what they found inside stunned everyone. Line after line, carved into the metal with deliberate strokes, described something no one had ever seen in any of the Dead Sea Scrolls, an inventory of treasure. Not mythic treasure, not symbolic wealth, but real, tangible, physical gold and silver, listed with astonishing precision. It read more like an accountant-esque record or a military quartermaster-esque inventory than a sacred text. Every line began the same way, a location, followed by a measurement, followed by a quantity of precious metal. It was as if someone had taken the time to note down exactly where each deposit was hidden, ensuring that it could one day be found again. The scroll contained 64 separate entries, each one a clue, each one a promise. Together, they described tons of gold and silver, vessels, and sacred artifacts, buried in carefully chosen places, beneath ruins, near water sources, inside caves, even under temple courtyards. The Hebrew used in the text was not poetic or ceremonial. It was straightforward, technical, the language of logistics. This was not a story meant to inspire faith. It was a record meant to preserve knowledge. Whoever wrote it had a purpose, to document where the riches of a fallen world had been concealed. Imagine the shock of the scholars reading those lines for the first time. For years, the Dead Sea Scrolls had revealed prayers, apocalyptic prophecies, laws, and ancient wisdom, the voices of a lost religious community. And now, among them, appeared something that looked like a treasure map. It was as if, hidden within the spiritual texts of the ancient world, someone had slipped in a secret ledger, one that pointed to unimaginable wealth. The entries spoke of 40 talents of silver in the cistern under the steps, 17 talents of gold under the ruins of the Valley of Acre, 62 bars of gold near the spring at the Old Valley. A single talent was roughly 70 pounds. When you multiply that across all the locations listed, the total would have equaled well over 2,000 pounds of gold and more than 4,000 pounds of silver. By modern standards, that would mean billions of dollars in hidden treasure. But this wasn't just about wealth. Many of the items mentioned were in simple hoards of coins or jewelry. They were sacred objects. Temple vessels, ritual instruments, possibly even artifacts from the Second Temple itself. If that were true, then the Copper Scroll wasn't a thief's list or a treasure hunter's map. It was a record of the last desperate attempt to protect the holiest possessions of an entire civilization. The wording of the text gives us glimpses of urgency. Some locations are described with remarkable detail. In the tomb of the third column, north of the sanctuary, in the mouth of the cistern beneath the stairs, others are maddeningly vague. Under the ruins of the valley, near the twin mounds, it's as if the writer was encoding information only insiders would understand. These were not directions for the common man. These were notes for a chosen few, those who already knew the landscape, who knew what the Old Valley or the third column meant. The more scholars studied it, the more it seemed like a message written for a future generation, a generation that would one day reclaim what had been lost. It was as if the author was saying, when the time comes, when the chaos has passed, here is where you will find what we have hidden. The Copper Scroll reads not like a legend, but like an act of preservation, one final effort to ensure that the sacred wealth of a fallen people would not vanish forever. The scroll's tone is almost emotionless. It doesn't glorify the treasure or warn against taking it. It doesn't speak of curses, protection, or divine retribution, as so many ancient texts about hidden riches often do. Instead, it is precise and matter-of-fact. It is as if someone was dictating notes to a scribe. Here you will find this much silver, here that much gold. Here, sacred vessels. That cold precision makes it even more mysterious. Because if it was real, if it was truly an inventory, then whoever wrote it must have seen those treasures, touched them, perhaps even buried them with their own hands. There are also cryptic measurements scattered throughout, cubits, rods, and weights, all ancient units that make modern interpretation difficult. Some phrases have no known equivalent in modern Hebrew, leading to years of debate over what they actually describe. Does the cistern in the peristyle refer to a courtyard in Jerusalem's temple complex? Or is it something else entirely, perhaps a hidden chamber beneath Qumran itself? Every scholar, every historian who reads the scroll comes away with their own theory, and every theory opens a new path that leads into the unknown. Some believe the treasures listed were the sacred riches of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, hidden before the Romans destroyed it in 70 CE. Others think they could be remnants from the first temple, taken away before the Babylonian exile centuries earlier. There are even theories that connect the copper scroll to the fabled treasures of the Ark of the Covenant, suggesting that some of the listed items may have once belonged to that legendary artifact. What adds to the mystery is the tone of certainty. The copper scroll doesn't speak in riddles or metaphors. It doesn't say perhaps, or it is said. It states facts, specific weights, distances, and locations. That certainty has kept treasure hunters obsessed for decades. They argue that no ancient writer would go to such lengths to describe imaginary wealth, especially not in a language so technical. Others, however, believe that the treasure was never meant to be found, that it served a ritual or symbolic purpose. Perhaps it was a way for the exiled priests to preserve the memory of what was lost, even if the actual objects were destroyed or captured. The question of authenticity still lingers. Some researchers argue that the quantities are too vast to be real, that no ancient temple could have possessed that much gold or silver. Others counter that the Second Temple was one of the richest institutions of its time, and such wealth would have been entirely possible. The Romans, after all, carried away immense treasures after the conquest of Jerusalem, treasures that funded the building of the Colosseum. If the copper scroll records what was hidden before that invasion, then it could represent what was left behind, what the conquerors never found. Every word on that copper surface tells a story of wealth, of faith, of desperation. Each line feels like a whisper from a world on the brink of destruction. A priest or scribe, standing among chaos, chiseling words into metal to ensure that their legacy would survive. Somewhere between history and myth, the copper scroll bridges two realities, one material, filled with gold and silver, and one spiritual, filled with loss and longing. And as each inscription reveals another hidden site, another chamber, another measure of silver or gold, we are left to wonder, what exactly were they trying to protect? Was it the physical wealth of their people, or something more sacred, something that gold itself could never truly represent? As the words of the copper scroll were translated and examined, one thing became immediately clear. While the treasures it described were incredibly specific in quantity, the locations were maddeningly vague. Each line seemed to give directions, but those directions pointed into a fog of forgotten landmarks, vanished cities, and names no longer found on any modern map. The scroll listed places that might have once been well known to the people who wrote it, but 2,000 years later, they were ghosts. Ancient valleys, ruined courtyards, dried-up springs, and collapsed cisterns. The world it described had faded into dust. The scroll did not use familiar biblical names. It avoided clear references like Jerusalem or Jericho. Instead, it spoke in cryptic terms. In the cave that is next to the spring of the old valley, under the third step at the entrance to the peristyle, beneath the ruins in the valley of Acre. These are directions that make sense only to those who already know the terrain. To anyone else, they read like riddles. The scroll offered distances in cubits and references to landmarks that no longer exist. It was as if the author was whispering in a language that only insiders could decode, a secret map written for a chosen few. That secrecy has fascinated historians for decades. Why write something so detailed about treasure, but then hide its meaning behind cryptic geography? Some believe that the copper scroll was deliberately encoded, that it was never meant to be easily understood. The treasure was not to be found by strangers or conquerors, but only by those initiated into a specific circle of knowledge. The scroll may have been written for priests, Levites, or a group entrusted with safeguarding the wealth of the temple. If that were true, then the locations were never meant to be literal to the outside world. They were part of a hidden language of place, one that has been lost to time. The deeper scholars examined the text, the stranger it became. Some entries describe locations that seem natural, like valleys and springs. Others mentioned architectural details, steps, walls, courtyards, and columns, as if the treasure had been buried within buildings or beneath ancient sanctuaries. A few even referenced caves, which fit perfectly with the terrain of Qumran, where the scroll itself was discovered. But the frustrating part is that these descriptions overlap with hundreds of possible locations across ancient Judea. There is no single map, no single set of ruins that perfectly matches the text. This ambiguity has led to countless theories. One of the most prominent suggests that all the treasures listed were buried somewhere near Qumran itself. The caves, the cisterns, the ancient ruins all seem to match the kind of landscape the scroll describes. Some archaeologists believe the Essenes, the mysterious sect thought to have lived at Qumran, hid both their sacred writings and their treasures in the same area. If the copper scroll was their inventory, then perhaps the desert around the Dead Sea still conceals caches of ancient gold and silver beneath its shifting sands. But others see a different picture entirely. They argue that the language of the scroll points toward Jerusalem. The references to courtyards, steps, and peristyles sound like descriptions of the temple complex itself. Perhaps the treasures were hidden beneath the city before the Roman siege in 70 CE, buried in secret chambers beneath the Temple Mount or sealed inside cisterns that have long since been forgotten. Yet, if that were the case, centuries of rebuilding, destruction, and excavation would have likely erased all traces of those hiding places. The treasures may still lie beneath modern structures, beyond the reach of any archaeological dig. There are even scholars who believe the scroll's locations are scattered far beyond either Qumran or Jerusalem. They suggest that the treasures were divided and hidden across the entire region, from the hills of Jericho to the plains near Bethlehem. A vast network of secret caches designed to ensure that at least some portion of the wealth would survive. The Romans could conquer cities, burn temples, and enslave nations, but they could never find what they did not know existed. In that light, the copper scroll becomes a map, not of one treasure, but of many, a fragmented safeguard against total loss. Each location described in the text carries a strange balance of detail and obscurity. The scroll gives enough information to suggest a real place, but never enough to pinpoint it exactly. For example, one line reads, "In the cave of the pillar, 42 talents lie under the steps." But where is the cave of the pillar? What pillar? Another reads, "In the valley of the Shava, beneath the ruins of the stairway, 65 bars of gold." The valley of the Shava appears in ancient texts, but its true location has been debated for centuries. Every clue leads to another question, every question to another mystery. Treasure hunters and researchers have tried to follow these clues with mixed results. Some have combed the hills of Qumran with metal detectors and ground-penetrating radar. Others have dug near ancient cisterns in Jerusalem and around the Dead Sea. None have found anything matching the vast wealth described. Each failure only deepens the enigma. If the treasure ever existed, it is either buried so deeply that modern tools can't reach it, or it has already been taken long ago. But the possibility that the copper scroll is an encoded document adds another layer of fascination. Ancient Jewish texts often use symbolic references to hide sacred knowledge. The scroll's author might have used coded directions known only to temple officials. For instance, the Old Valley could be a name for a specific ritual site. The third column might refer to an architectural feature of the temple, and the peristyle could have been a coded term for a hidden chamber. The scroll could be a key to a language of place that only insiders understood, a map that requires not just translation, but initiation. The geography of the scroll also reflects something psychological. It paints a picture of a world under threat, people hurriedly hiding their treasures across deserts, valleys, and cities, marking the spots in coded words, hoping that someday someone would come back. Each line feels like a fragment of fear and hope preserved in copper. The treasure wasn't just wealth, it was memory, faith, identity. By hiding it in secret places, they were trying to save their world from vanishing completely. And yet, after centuries of searching, no one has been able to match even a single location with certainty. The landmarks have eroded, the valleys have changed shape, the springs have dried, and the cities have been rebuilt countless times. The geography of the scroll belongs to a vanished world, a landscape erased by time. Every direction written on that copper surface once pointed to something real, but those points have been lost, swallowed by 2,000 years of history. The true genius of the copper scroll may lie in that very obscurity. It reveals just enough to tantalize, to suggest that something incredible lies hidden somewhere beneath our feet, but not enough to ever prove it. It keeps its secret locked behind words whose meanings time has blurred. Each clue seems designed to lead us deeper into mystery rather than closer to discovery, leaving us to wonder if the treasure ever existed or if the real secret of the Copper Scroll was never about gold or silver at all, but about what happens when memory, faith, and time are written in a code only history can forget. From the moment the Copper Scroll was translated, it ignited something ancient in the human imagination, the irresistible lure of hidden treasure. Not mythic gold guarded by dragons, but treasure buried by real hands, recorded by real people, and hidden somewhere in the dust of history. Almost immediately, scholars, adventurers, and dreamers from around the world began asking the same question. If the Copper Scroll is genuine, then where is all that gold? The first wave of excitement came from archaeologists, who believed they might finally be on the verge of a discovery that could redefine biblical history. Teams of researchers descended on the deserts near Qumran, scouring every hill, cave, and dry wadi in search of signs of the treasure. They brought with them ground maps, measurements from the scroll, and the hope that the riddle would yield to reason. But the desert remained silent. Every dig ended the same way: sand, stone, and silence. The treasure, if it existed, refused to reveal itself. Still, the lack of discovery didn't cool the obsession, it made it stronger. People began to develop theories, bold, detailed, and sometimes fantastical. One of the most enduring theories is that the Copper Scroll lists the hidden wealth of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, concealed before the Roman siege in 70 CE. According to this view, the priests and guardians of the temple, realizing that destruction was imminent, hid the sacred vessels, tithes, and gold offerings in secret locations throughout Judea. The Copper Scroll, then, was their inventory, a record meant for future generations to recover the temple's sacred riches once peace returned? This theory fits perfectly with history. The Roman army, led by Titus, stormed Jerusalem with brutal force. The temple was burned, its treasures seized and carried to Rome, scenes immortalized on the Arch of Titus, but not everything may have been taken. If the priests knew what was coming, they would have hidden the most sacred items beforehand. The Copper Scroll could be the only surviving record of that desperate act of preservation. Yet, despite decades of research, not a single cache described in the scroll has been found, leaving the theory both compelling and incomplete. Another group of scholars argues that the scroll has nothing to do with the temple at all. They believe it was created by the Essenes, the mysterious sect thought to have lived at Qumran. The Essenes were known for their ascetic lifestyle, their obsession with purity, and their distrust of Jerusalem's priesthood, which they saw as corrupt. Some researchers suggest that the Essenes may have accumulated their own wealth, perhaps donations, or temple tithes they considered illegitimate under Roman rule, and hidden it away. The Copper Scroll, in that view, would be their own record of secret funds, stored to sustain their community or to one day rebuild a purified temple. But this idea raises its own puzzle. The Essenes were not known for material wealth. They lived simply, rejected luxury, and devoted themselves to spiritual pursuits. Could such a community really have possessed the vast riches described in the Copper Scroll, hundreds of tons of gold and silver? It seems unlikely. Unless, of course, they were entrusted with safeguarding treasures that did not belong to them, perhaps sent to them by sympathetic priests fleeing the chaos in Jerusalem. Then there are the more daring theories, the ones that push the boundaries of history and legend. Some believe the Copper Scroll's treasure includes relics from the First Temple, destroyed centuries earlier by the Babylonians. These treasures, according to the Book of Maccabees, were hidden away to keep them safe. Could it be that the Copper Scroll preserves that older record, copied and updated over generations? If true, the items described might include the golden menorah, the table of showbread, or even, as some whisper, the Ark of the Covenant itself. Such ideas may sound like fantasy, but the Copper Scroll gives them a shadow of credibility. Its tone is not mythic. It is factual, it lists weights and measures, not miracles, and that realism is what fuels so much speculation. If one scroll could survive 2,000 years, who's to say the treasures it describes didn't survive too? In the 1950s and 60s, the mystery inspired a series of unofficial hunts. Adventurers and treasure seekers, sometimes working under the radar of official archaeologists, began exploring the desert with metal detectors, shovels, and hope. The Israeli military even conducted its own investigations after the Six-Day War, when access to ancient sites in the West Bank became possible. But again, every search led to frustration. No gold, no silver, no sacred artifacts, only the endless echo of unanswered questions. Some researchers began to suspect that the copper scroll was never meant to be taken literally at all. Perhaps the treasure wasn't physical. Maybe it was a symbolic map of spiritual riches, the wisdom, teachings, or sacred texts preserved by the Essenes. In that interpretation, the gold and silver were metaphors for divine knowledge, buried not beneath the earth but within the human soul or hidden writings. Yet the straightforward, inventory-like style of the text seems to reject that. It doesn't sound like scripture. It sounds like instructions. Others proposed that the treasure had already been found long ago, maybe by the Romans or by those who originally buried it. Some argue that the copper scroll could have been an old copy written after the fact, recording what had already been taken or moved. In that case, it would be more of a memorial document than a treasure map, a list of what once was, not what still is. Modern technology has breathed new life into the mystery. Satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and digital mapping have allowed researchers to overlay the descriptions from the scroll onto modern landscapes. Some studies claim to have identified possible matches between ancient valleys and modern wadis near Qumran, yet so far the earth has remained silent. The desert gives no answers. And still, the hunts continue. Every generation produces new explorers who believe they will be the ones to crack the code. They study ancient maps, biblical geography, and Hebrew linguistics, convinced that the key lies in a single mistranslated word or overlooked measurement. Some believe that beneath the ruins of Qumran itself lies a hidden complex, tunnels, chambers, maybe even sealed vaults containing the very treasures the copper scroll describes. The scroll has inspired countless books, documentaries, and expeditions. For some, it's an archaeological riddle waiting to be solved. For others, it's a spiritual quest, a bridge between faith and history, myth and material truth. The theories have multiplied because the mystery refuses to die. Every unanswered question leaves room for another possibility, and every failed search only deepens the obsession. Perhaps that's the real power of the copper scroll. It blurs the line between fact and legend, between history and imagination. It offers just enough truth to make disbelief impossible, and just enough mystery to make certainty unattainable. Whether the treasure lies buried beneath the Judean hills or exists only in the dreams of those who chase it, the scroll continues to call out, a voice of the ancient world, promising gold, but offering something far more intoxicating, the pursuit of the unknown. The copper scroll stands today as one of history's most confounding enigmas, a document that defies easy explanation, a text that feels both ancient and timeless, rooted in faith yet whispering of fortune. Over 2,000 years have passed since it was engraved onto sheets of metal, and still, no one has unlocked its full meaning. It continues to haunt historians, archaeologists, and dreamers alike, a puzzle that refuses to fade, a story that never truly ends. Part of what gives the copper scroll its enduring power is its uniqueness. Unlike the other Dead Sea Scrolls, written on parchment and filled with psalms, prayers, and prophecies, this one is carved into copper, a medium meant to last forever. The choice of material itself feels deliberate, almost defiant. Whoever wrote it wanted this record to survive the ages, as if they knew the world would one day forget, and the metal would hold the truth when memory failed. That detail alone gives the scroll an aura of immortality, as if it were never meant just for its own time, but for ours, for anyone bold enough to search for what lies beneath the dust of history. Its legacy reaches far beyond archaeology. The copper scroll is more than a list of treasure. It's a mirror reflecting the timeless human obsession with discovery. Every generation that reads it sees a different reflection. For some, it's a testament to faith and divine providence, evidence that sacred relics were hidden away, waiting for a prophesied return. For others, it's a historical puzzle, an archaeological riddle demanding logic, tools, and technology. And for many, it's a symbol of something deeper, that tantalizing blend of mystery and hope that drives human curiosity itself. The impact of the Copper Scroll on modern culture is undeniable. From books and television specials to archaeological documentaries and speculative research papers, it has carved out a place in the collective imagination. Its story feels cinematic, a coded treasure map from the dawn of civilization, written by hands that feared extinction yet believed in the future. It's a narrative that resonates with everyone who's ever dreamed of unearthing the past, of finding proof that myth and history might be one and the same. But perhaps the most fascinating part of the Copper Scroll's legacy is how it continues to evolve with every new discovery in the region. Each time archaeologists uncover a new site near Qumran, the Dead Sea, or ancient Jerusalem, the scroll is revisited, its words reinterpreted, its coordinates recalculated. Scholars debate whether the valleys, cisterns, and tombs mentioned in the text refer to real, specific places or to symbolic representations of something greater. The scroll, stubbornly silent, gives nothing away, no confirmation, no denial. It only waits as if daring the next generation to try again. Some researchers believe the treasure may have already been found, its recovery lost to time. Others suggest that the Romans themselves might have discovered and looted the caches shortly after Jerusalem's fall, meaning that the scroll we have today is a ghost record, a memorial to treasures long gone. But even if that's true, the mystery remains unsolved, because the greater question is not just where the treasure went, but why the scroll was written in the first place. What purpose did it serve? Who was meant to read it? There's a haunting theory that the Copper Scroll may have been part of a larger collection, that more metallic records once existed, containing instructions, history, or even warnings, all lost to decay or buried deeper than we've yet dared to dig. If that's the case, then the scroll we have now might be just one fragment of a much bigger message from a world that vanished beneath sand and time. The unsolved nature of the Copper Scroll gives it a strange immortality. Every failure to decode it adds to its legend. Every expedition that comes up empty only deepens its mystique. The very absence of answers has made it stronger, turning it into something more than a historical artifact, into a living mystery that continues to breathe across the centuries. Its influence extends beyond academic circles. Treasure hunters still travel to the Judean desert, guided by faith and fascination, convinced they might be the ones to find what others missed. Scholars pore over every Hebrew letter, comparing translations, analyzing ancient dialects, hoping a single phrase will reveal a location overlooked for decades. Even theologians weigh in, interpreting the scroll not as a map of earthly wealth, but as a metaphor for divine promise, the treasure of righteousness and knowledge hidden until the appointed time. There's a poetic quality to this persistence. The Copper Scroll, forged in secrecy and fear, has become a beacon of human determination. It reminds us that mystery has its own kind of power, the power to keep people searching, questioning, imagining. Whether the treasure is real or symbolic almost ceases to matter. The search itself has become the story. And maybe that's the hidden truth the Copper Scroll was always meant to reveal. Every coordinate, every measure, every clue is a spark, one that ignites the timeless flame of curiosity. The men who engraved those words into metal might never have imagined that their secret would echo through millennia, stirring minds in languages they couldn't have conceived, in lands they never knew existed. Yet here we are, still listening to their coded whispers, still tracing their mysterious directions through the desert of time. Even as technology advances, drones scanning terrain, satellites mapping ancient ruins, AI programs analyzing linguistic patterns, the heart of the mystery remains untouched. The Copper Scroll resists every attempt to reduce it to simple fact. It stands as a testament to something eternal, that history's greatest treasures are not always gold or silver, but questions that refuse to die. And in that resistance, the scroll has achieved what few artifacts ever do. It has transcended its own time. It belongs not just to the past, but to every generation that encounters it. It reminds us that history is never truly finished, that secrets still lie beneath the earth waiting for the right moment or the right mind to uncover them. The Copper Scroll endures because it embodies the oldest and most powerful force in human nature, the need to know. It challenges us to look deeper, to doubt what we see, and to believe that somewhere in the silence of the desert, answers still wait. It has outlasted empires, wars, and centuries of speculation, yet it remains as sharp and enigmatic as the day it was made, whispering to all who dare listen that the greatest mysteries are the ones we have yet to solve. As we reach the end of this journey through time, one truth becomes clear. The Copper Scroll is far more than a relic. It is a bridge between the tangible and the mysterious, between faith and history, between what we know and what we yearn to discover. It has endured for over 2,000 years not because of the gold and silver it describes, but because of the questions it raises, questions that still challenge our understanding of the ancient world. From its discovery in the caves near Qumran to the countless expeditions and debates that followed, the Copper Scroll continues to remind us that history is never fully written. It whispers of lost temples, secret vaults, and treasures that may still lie buried beneath the Judean desert. Yet beyond the possibility of hidden riches lies a deeper revelation, that humanity's greatest treasure is its relentless curiosity. Perhaps the true legacy of the Copper Scroll is not the promise of gold, but the enduring fire it sparks in those who seek truth. Every archaeologist, scholar, and dreamer who has studied its cryptic lines has added another chapter to its story. And though the treasure itself remains hidden, the pursuit has given us something even more valuable, a timeless connection to the people who lived, hoped, and feared as we do today. So maybe in the end, the Copper Scroll isn't just a map of buried wealth. Maybe it's a mirror, reflecting our own hunger to uncover the unknown, a reminder that the greatest discoveries often lie not beneath the ground, but within the depths of our curiosity. The mystery lives on, waiting for the next seeker brave enough to follow the clues, to lift the veil of history and perhaps, just perhaps, to finally uncover the truth behind history's most mysterious treasure map.